Hello, my name is Binay, and in this video, I'll be solving this particular question where we have to uh, create an API, and we'll get the data from this particular JSON placeholder. Where this is a place where we get the a dummy data, or you can say fake data. And as mentioned here, we will be using a data from blog. So we have to display two things here. We have to display the blog detail like title and the body, as well as we have to display the uh, blog comments, right? So if you go through this JSON placeholder, you'll if you scroll down, you'll find uh, routes that are available. Route is in these are the endpoints. We will call this endpoint to get the data. So we will be using two endpoints here. One is the post and another one is comment. So if you scroll down further, you see that it's mentioned that the route we have to create a route, um, and it should be like slash post, and we have to give a param request param which will be a post ID, right? So how we'll be doing this is we will create this entire project using Express.js, Node.js, and it's also mentioned here that we cannot use HTML file, so we have to use a template engine, right? So there are multiple template engine out there. If you just type template engine in Node.js, you'll find this list of template engine that are available. So we will be using EJS. uh, why EJS? Because it is one of the popular engine out there, and its syntax is very much similar to um, like a normal HTML. You are free to use any template engine of your choice, but in this particular video I will be using EJS. Even if you're using a different template engine, you are free to do so. So let's start by installing the required packages that we need. So let's open. I'm in a Visual Code editor. So we will be using an inline terminal in the Visual Code editor. Okay. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to initialize a project. We can simply do that by using uh, init -y, which will create a package.json for us. As you can see in the left side, there's a package.json, and we will be installing all the dependencies that are required for our project. So we will require basically two things. Okay, we will use Express to create our routes, and we will be using a library called Axios. Okay, so I'll let you know what is Axios. Let me first install all this. Express and Axios. All right, so what is Axios? Axios, if you Google it, Axios is a library that will help us in making a request, or a making HTTP request to the JSON APIs, right? So we have to make a request. We have to make two GET request, HTTP request, and get the data. So for that we will be using Axios. There are other method as well through which you can call the API, JSON placeholder API. Like you can use the inbuilt HTTP module from Node.js, but just to make it simple, we will be using Axios. If you want to know more about that, you can go to the Axios documentation and learn more about that. Okay, so I think our libraries are installed. As you can see, we have Axios and Express. Let's get started. Oh, okay, we have to install EJS as well, since we will be using EJS as our template engine. Npm install EJS. All right, cool. So the very first thing, let's create a app.js file, which will be the entry point of our server. Okay, here let's import libraries. We'll be using Express, so we'll just import all the libraries. Okay, and we will also be using Axios. Let's import that as well. Okay, let's make an app. Right, and we'll also make it listen. We will also, sorry about that, we'll also say our port number. We will listen to this in, let's say, 3000. You can use any port number you want. So we'll listen to the app. So we'll listen to this port number, and let's say if it's successfully, if you are able to make a connection to this port, then we'll just log an information that it has been connected. Server is running at right. So our server will be running at port 3000, so we have to use that. All right, let's start. This is a basic layout for our server. Let's create a route, since you can see over here that we have to create a route with slash blog post, and we have to provide the request pattern. Okay, so let's say app will be a get call, right? Post slash post ID. Okay, this will be a request and response. Okay, fine. Now since we have a basic layout set up for our server, what we have, just to summarize what we have done, is we have imported library, and then we are listening the server on the port 3000. That is, we can access the server using port 3000. So if you are in localhost, you have to use localhost colon 3000. Okay, and we have created a route for a post. Yeah, so we have created route for the post. Now what we do, we'll set up our template engine. For that, since we will be using EJS, okay, EJS. For EJS, it has a specific, we have to define a specific directory or a folder name. So the very first thing that we will include is views. So it will views. So the Express.js will automatically read this whatever folders or file are there in this views. Okay, so in views we will add two things. Okay, one will be the partial, where all the partials, parcel as in part of HTML file, will be stored here, and another one will be pages. This will be all the pages. If we have multiple pages, we'll define all the pages here. Okay, So in parcel, what we'll do is inside the page, let's start with the page. Inside the page, we'll say index.ejs. This will be our main file where we'll load all the things. In our case, we'll be loading all the block details. And in parcel, what we'll define is just we'll define head, whatever will go in the head section of the um, HTML file. Okay. So to just generate the bare bone or the basic structure of the HTML, just hit colon, not colon, exclamation mark, and put hit tab. It will auto populate all the uh, not all the, but just bare bone of the HTML file. So that's a shortcut for that. So what we have done is we'll cut this header and then we'll paste in the header section. Okay. Give me a second, I'm not really sure. Okay, so it's giving error because we have defined as JS. It should be EJS. The extension was JS. It'll be EJS and the error will be gone now. And we'll also be using Bootstrap for styling purpose. So let's add Bootstrap. Let's use Bootstrap 4 just to make our life easier. We don't have to use much of styling. So more probably this tutorial is not largely related to styling, so we'll not be concentrating too much on styling. Okay. And we will include the CSS file and the JavaScript file. Just copy it and paste it inside your header. Okay, so in this way we will be able to use Bootstrap. If some of you are not aware of Bootstrap, it's a styling library. I think it's one of the most popular library to make our HTML files styling and responsive. Okay, since we have put the header, what we have to do is we have to import that header in the index file. So header is missing from here and we have to import the header. To import the header, there's a particular way through which we can import the header. We have to say you have to say the bracket percentage mark hyphen and then say include. We have to give the file name here, so we'll go one directory ahead, that is will come out of this particular page directory, and we'll say partials slash head. Okay, we don't have to give an extension here. Okay, and we have to close it with the percentage and closing bracket. Yeah, so in this way we have defined a header in a separate file and we are importing or including that header in our main file. Inside that we will have a section. We will call the entire blog post which we have as one single section. Okay, and then we'll say div classical container. It's a bootstrap class, and inside the container we will be using including all the blog posts and body, and we'll be using a row and column of a bootstrap class which will make it responsive. Let's say let's say we just want 8 column. Yeah, I'm not explaining what Bootstrap what it does. It's up to you if you want to use Bootstrap, or you can just style it of your own, non issue. As I told you, this tutorial, this video is not more concentrate on the styling. It will be more concentrated on how you can make route. Okay, and how you can use Express.js and how can you call the API or endpoint of the JSON placeholder. All right, cool. So this is the very basic structure. It has to be the view. It will automatically detect, the Express framework will automatically detect the view and whatever is there inside the view folder. And we also have to include, we have to tell the Express.js that we are using an engine called view EJS. So the way to do is we'll say app dot set, will set this is the engine, this is the view engine, and we'll say it's EJS engine which we are using, template engine. Okay, and one more thing which we'll include here, we'll include a folder called style. Let's name it as style.st, or let's call it public. Okay, inside we'll have all the we will be writing small little bit of CSS, we'll include it there. And we have to tell the Express.js that we are using a static library, static folder, so that it will know that it contain all the static assets, file, images in that particular folder. So we have to say express.static, since it will be a static folder. We have to define the particular directory. The dir.name will give us the current directory as in the location of this particular folder in your computer, and we'll say it's public. We'll say this public folder is a static folder, and whatever we include, we have to, so generally in this particular static folder we can include images, we can include styling files and all. These are all static things. So we are set here. We have included the public folder which will contain the style file. Let's create a file called style.css. And one more thing we have to do is we have to include that style in the header, right? So to do that, we'll say link relationship will be style sheet, href will be we just have to give style.css, since we don't have to give the full path because we have already told that all the statics things will be in this particular folder, public folder. So we don't have to define the full path of it. Yep, that's all. And one more thing we'll do is we'll just change the title. Since we are making a blog, we'll say it's a blog. Okay, that's a blog. Cool. So in this way we have included the style sheet as well. All right, let's head back to the app, our main entry file. Here what we'll do is first we'll call the API. There are two APIs that we need to call, post and comment. If you go in this particular section guide, it will show you how you can use the endpoint. So this is the complete URL of it. We'll use that. So first thing we have to do is we have to get the post ID, which post ID we want the data for, right? So since you can see here, we have to define the post ID. So we have defined here, we want the number 1 post, or if you say number 2 post, it will give us the second post, or if we say third post, it will give us a third post. If you don't define the post, it will give us the list of all the posts that's available there, right? So we have to get the post ID. We'll say ID equal to since we have to read from params, so we'll say request dot params dot param name. What is a param name? That's the post ID. Okay, and we'll say we have to define two URL, one for comment. Let's say let post URL. Okay, yeah, this is the post URL. Just copy it and paste it here. So more I'm using ES6 syntax over here, and this particular tilde sign which you see here, it's called template literals. Using this you can embed the variables in this particular file. So we'll say whatever the ID which we have got from the param, will include that ID here. Okay, this is a post URL. We'll also have a let comment URL, right? We'll do the same thing. Just search comment here. Yep, just copy this comment URL and paste it here, and in place of 1 we'll say whatever ID we get from this server, we'll include that here. Okay, ID, and make sure that you put the semicolon, comes under best practice. Okay, so we have defined a URL, and now we have to call that URL. Okay, to do that we are using Axios to call the URL or call the endpoint of the JSON placeholder. We'll say const, let's name it as post post blog post, so let's say blog post. Okay, blog post, we'll say axios.get. If we are using a get call, so we'll just say axios.get. It'll make a get call, and we'll paste the URL here. This way we have called the get call for the post, and we need for the, let's name it as block comment. We'll get the data of the comments here. So get comment data. So axios.get comment comment URL will give us it will call the comment URL and give us the data. Now in Axios, since we have to call two APIs, right? Two JSON APIs, JSON placeholder API. One is post and comment. So we have to use of function in Axios which is called axios.all. So what it will do is it will simultaneously call both the URL or both the endpoint and give us the data. Okay. So we'll whatever data we have called here, we'll just paste it here. Whatever data, whatever endpoint we have called. So what these two line will do, the axios.get for blog and axios.get for comment, it'll give us a promise. I'm sure if you know promise in JavaScript, it'll give us a promise, and we have to make sure that we get the data out of that promise. Okay, so once we have the promise, we have to use a then function so that we can get the data of the promises, and we'll say axios dot spread. This spread, so spread will give us the data uh, of both the API which we have called, and it will create an array of it. Okay, so just spread it and say response from both the URL. Right, so now this response contain the data of the blog post, and it contain the data of the blog comment. All right, So now what we can do is we can render the render the file which we have, the EJS file, the main EJS file which we have. We can render that. We have to give the name. So since the main file which we have, that is the index.js, which is including all the other files or other HTML file or EJS file, or you can say template file. Okay, so it will say pages slash index. So include that, and here we have to pass an object. So we need two things, as you know. We need two things. One is the post detail, and another is the post comment. So we'll divide this into we'll create an object called post, which will contain all the post. So let's say response of 0 since we have called the blog post first, so at 0 index it will contain the blog post data, right? So to get the data what at 0 index, it will contain the data of the post. So just say response of at 0 index dot data, whatever data we have, I want that data. Okay, and another thing which will contain, another key will be comments. Okay, this will be the another key, and the comments data will be in the second index, I mean the first index dot data. Whatever data we got, we are passing that data here. So let's just verify this. We'll console.log and we'll check whether we are getting the data or not. Okay, let's say response of data for the post and response of data for the comment. And to run this particular file, what you have to do is say node and say app.js. This is the main entry file. Just type app.js. Look like we have a error here. Yeah, so it's not list, it's listen. So we are listening to a port 3000. So there was a typo, sorry for that. Now it should run. So as you can see, server is running at 3000. Go to your browser and say localhost 3000. All right, okay, seems like we have an error. Let's check what error we have. Yeah, give me a second. Everything seems fine. Okay, so we have to define the post ID, right? Say it will be a post slash one. Let's pull the data for the post one. Looks like we have some error. No, I think we have got the data. As you can see here, we have successfully got the data, but we are getting some error. I think it's because we have called the blocks multiple times. Let's run the survey again and let's see if we get the same error. Let's say post one. Okay, since we are getting the error again, let's see what error are we getting. Let's not render this page and try. Yep, now we're not getting any error. I think it's because we are directly sending the data over here. So what we'll do is we'll first save this data in a variable. Let's call it a post. Let's call this as comment. And we'll just pass whatever we have got there. I think this should solve our problem. Okay, let's see if we have any error here in the syntax. Okay, looks fine. Let's load it again. Okay. All right. Let me figure out what's the error. All right. So I kind of Google it and I figured out why we are getting this error. We are getting this error because in this particular route, it's trying to load the CSS file uh, in the params. We are getting the CSS file in the params. So for that, to solve this particular problem, we can go to index.js and make the path absolute. If you make the path absolute, the error that we are getting, that will be gone. So now we are not getting any error. And yes, so we are able to send the data to our index.js file. Okay. Let's just see whether we are able to render the data or not. To render the data in the HTML or the EJS file, what you have to do is, there's a particular syntax that we use to render to render data in the CSS file. So the syntax is something like uh, left square bracket percentage equal to, and since we are passing, let's say we have passed post and comment uh, from this, and from this route we have passed post and comment to this index.js. So we have access of post. So let's say we want to get the post title, right? Post title, and then we have to close it with percentage and left right square bracket. So let's see, are we able to render this particular data or not? Yes, as you can see, this is the post title, right? So we are able to get the data. So let's follow the design and try to replicate the same thing. So first is the post title. We'll say let's say h4 post title. Okay, and we'll add the title here. All right, let's wrap this inside a div, so it will help us in styling it. All right, and the next thing is post content body. Yeah, bh5 as well. h4 and we post content of body, and we'll say p tag, and we'll render it again here, left square bracket percentage equal to post that. So how will you know what data do we have here? If we just go here, so um, if you go to the JSON placeholder file, I'll show you how to check that. Go to the post one and see, this is the data which we are getting from the JSON post JSON placeholder, and we have four key. We have user ID, we have ID, we have title, and we have body. So in here what we have to render, we have to render title in here, and in here we have to render a body. So we need two things, title and body, and we know the key, so we just have to use that key here. So we need the body here, it will render the body, close the tag, right? So our this thing is done. Now we have to put the comment, h4 comments. So comments, if you go back to JSON placeholder and go back, if you go back to the comments are in a array. It's an array of objects, right? You can see it has a square bracket which symbolize that it's inside an array, and inside an array there are multiple objects. This is object 1, this is object 2, 3, and so on and so forth, right? So we have to loop in, we have to use a loop like a for loop or map function which we have, which help us in looping through this object. So to loop it, there is a particular syntax in EJS to loop the entire array. So the syntax is pretty much similar. We have to again start with the left square bracket and percentage, right? And let's say since we have to loop into the comments, we are already passing the comments in the index.js. We'll say comment dot, we'll use for each, so it will make a callback to each element inside an array, and it will render all the things that we are required. So we will say data, let's call it the data comment, let's call it as comment data, right? So data, again we'll be using ES6 function. So here what we have to do is we have to close the bracket here again, press enter. So each line, if you have a multiple line, you have to use the open square bracket and percentage, that's opening, and we have to, if you are opening a tag, we have to close the tag as well, right? So inside this is how we are looping. We are looping in the comments, and we will get we'll get a callback for the each comments, and it should be able to render all the comments. Okay, so in comments, how many fields do we have? So again, in comments we have 4 fields or 4 key. Okay, we have a post ID, we have ID, we have name, email, and body. So we are interested in name, email, and body, 3 things. All right, so we'll say again use p tag, and you have to open it. We'll say comment data dot name, close it. This is name. We'll say email and body, 3 things we need: name, email, and body, right? Perfect. Let's make it this as bold. All right, Perfect. Let's run this and check if we are getting any sort of error or not. Okay. Alright, so as you can see, we are able to render all sort of data here. Comments are rendering properly, and even the post, title, comments, everything are rendering properly. So what we have to do is we will center align it. To do center align it, we have to say justify content center. So it's a bootstrap class which will align this entire thing right in the middle of the page. Yep. So let's give it a 6, grid of 6. So it will take the space up to, let's say, half the screen. Like this look much better. Let's give a little bit of basic styling. Will not style too much, but just basic styling so that it look good. Let's go to style.css. All right. So we'll say whatever h4 we have, all the h4, we'll say color blue. Okay, so let's say light blue. Yep, because all the h4 are light blue. And let's give a padding here. I mean, not padding, but we'll use a bootstrap class here. We'll give a padding 2. We'll add some padding. We'll say margin top 4. All right, and we also want border. We'll say border and shadow. All right, let's rerun the server and let's check the result here. All right, we are getting, but this look a bit different. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll wrap this particular thing inside a div, because we have to apply styling to each and every elements, right? Or yeah, so this look much better, right? Let's give us a margin y of 4. Okay, so I think we are almost done. We have successfully rendered the data, and let's try to load some other post. Let's say we want the 10th post. Yes, it's successfully rendering 10th post. Let's say second post, first post. All right, cool. So we are able to render it properly, and let's check. Wow. All right, so we have applied the style blue to the, and it's not applying. We're getting some error here. Let's see what is the error. Okay, so there should not be any comma here. We have put the comma there. Please rectify that. Remove the comma from here and reload the server. Okay, Yeah, let's give it a class name called title. Okay, let's add the class name here as well and here as well, and let's say dot title. Yeah. Okay, so everything's look good. Let's reload the browser and check. Yeah, so our title are blue now, and I think that's it. We are able to achieve the required result. Let's check the GIF. Okay, so yeah, I think we are able to get or solve the problem. We're getting all the data correctly and rendering properly. Okay, all right, so yeah, thanks for watching.